Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch. I'm Chris Bianchi, and it's been our big story all day long. The Kruger Rock Fire, which is burning just outside of Estes Park, has led to evacuations, and at this point, according to 9 News reporter Angela McCall, who was on the scene, over 100 acres have been burnt with a 0% containment on the fire. Now, we believe the fire started earlier on this morning. Still no official word on the cause of it, but we've had strong winds whipping around there all day long. And again, we do have evacuations for the south and east side of Estes Park. Now, a little bit of good news here. I kind of want to show you what we're looking at in terms of the overall conditions. That northwest wind direction, I mentioned how the fire is burning to the south and east of Estes Park. That northwest wind direction, west-northwest, is kind of taking the strongest of those winds and pushing the strongest of those flames and pushing them away from the town. So right now we're seeing, again, the strongest winds pushing the fire away from the center of Estes Park. Those strongest winds are going to be right around now through maybe about 5, 6 o'clock tonight. Once we get to about dusk, we should see those winds start to back off. And then later on tonight, we'll see those winds really significantly back on off. So the worst of it right now, we're seeing some fairly big explosive growth here in this fire. It started about 5 acres, and now it's over 100 acres. According to, again, 9 News reporter Angela McCall. Now, again, here's a bit of good news. The direction, notice that arrow, it is pushing that fire away from the center of Estes Park. Estes Park, you can kind of see it there just under that 40-mile-an-hour there in the center of your screen. Just the south of the town of Estes Park is where the Kruger Rock Fire continues to burn, and unfortunately it does continue to grow. But again, that wind direction is pushing the core of the fire away from the town. That said, there are evacuations that are, again, underway, and there are homes that are currently being threatened by that fire. But the center of the town of Estes Park, hopefully, fingers crossed here, is avoiding, again, that fire as it is burning away from the town. Now, here's the good news, and certainly the, I don't know about the best part to pass along, but certainly the good news component of all this is that the winds should really start to back on off. Again, the worst of it is right now till about 5, 6 o'clock tonight. You notice here that those winds do start to kind of tail off a little bit by 7:30 tonight, but watch what happens as we head through the overnight time frame. In fact, let's go back to this here for a quick second here so you can see what happens with those winds as we go later on through the evening. Those winds really, again, do back on off. This is in association with a powerful cold front that's going to move its way through northern and central Colorado later on today and tonight, and that is going to drastically drop our temperatures. It's going to increase our relative humidity. I'll explain that here in just a second, but again, those winds, that's the main root cause of all this, and those winds, once we're able to back those on off, we will see some significant improvement in terms of those firefighting conditions. I would imagine that as we get into your day tomorrow, we'll see much better firefighting conditions compared to today. Unfortunately, today and through the rest of the afternoon, through the early evening, those fire conditions are going to be, unfortunately, very, very unfavorable for the firefighters that are bravely battling that blaze out here. Now, the relative humidity, what you're looking for here, what you want to see, the higher the number, the better. The relative humidity is a measure of the amount of moisture that's in the air. Long story short here, it's a little complicated, but when we get a higher relative humidity, it's not exact science, but when we get a relative humidity, a higher relative humidity, it does tend to lead to more moisture in the air and means, well, less chapstick weather, right? We're seeing less of a dry air mass, less wind, less dry weather, I should say, and also much lower temperatures. So normally when you're talking about wildfires like the Kruger Rock Fire, you typically have 3 main conditions that are in place. You typically have 1, a very dry air mass, 2, and this is probably the most important one, gusty winds, number 3. You typically also have cooler temperatures. Right now, what we're looking at is all 3 of those in place by tomorrow. We're going to lose all of those. We won't have the wind, we will not have nearly as dry of an air mass, and we also will have much, much cooler temperatures. In fact, could even get a little snow in and around that area. So overall, those conditions should be much better, but unfortunately the next, we'll call it 4 or 5 hours or so, are unfortunately going to be bad news for that area. But again, by the time the sun goes down tonight, we'll start to see some gradual improvements, and then by the time we get later on through the evening, about 10, 11 o'clock or so, we'll see those winds really significantly back on off, and that should be good news for the firefighters up that way that are battling the Kruger Rock Fire. Again, this is just the south and east of the town of Estes Park. And one more look at this. I'm going to pull this back up for you where the Kruger Rock Fire is burning and that wind forecast. Again, the fire is burning in the direction away from the center of Estes Park at this point. but there are still homes that are threatened and mandatory evacuations in and around the Estes Park area. So we'll continue to keep you posted with the very latest on this, again, situation that we've been dealing with all day long here in the Estes Park area. I should also note that the entire Front Range, including Denver, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo, are under a red flag warning. That means increased fire danger and bad firefighting conditions for us out there in and around the Front Range. So again, anything with the spark outdoors should be avoided today. Cigarette butts, even parking your car in grassy areas, especially kind of dry grass, that can sometimes spark a fire. So just keep in mind that we are looking at increased fire danger around the Denver area, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo. Denver already up to 72 degrees. It's close to 20 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. So thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for an update on the Kruger Rock Fire. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi, and have a great rest of your day.